What's up everyone and welcome back to HateWatchers. Today we're keeping calm and carrying on with our coverage of the second season of The Rings of Power with episode 5 entitled Halls of Stone. Let's delve right into the breakdown, which means spoilers below. We kick things off atop a misty mountain, where within we see the new glitzy bling bling for the Short Kings. King Doran admires the blue one, while the others whisper,
"You should have picked me, you bearded fuck.
The taint of the ring drives the king to get to work, plowing away on his new hole full of glory until he receives a blast to the face of sunlight. He's brought light back to his darkened kingdom, and he goes on to give an inspiring speech about how they don't need the rock singers anymore. Everyone loves it because that means that Lizzo is unemployed and her reign of tonal terror is over. Back in Eregion, Celebrimbor preaches to the dwarves about the merits of being tall, while his assistant Galadriel 2.0 fondles Anatar. They reveal the famed Doors of Durin crafted by Celebrimbor and Narvi, and then Celebrimbor tells everyone that next he plans to carve out a doggy door for the dwarves to use. Later, Anatar tries to guilt-trip Celebrimbor into making rings for men too, but Celebro gets jealous at the mention of other men.
We shall speak of men tomorrow.
I would prefer to speak of them now.
Celebrimbor puts his foot down, saying no to the idea of making rings for other men, even saying no in German.
9.
And Anatar apologizes, before saying he'll just do it himself. Back in Numenor, Kemen says he'll be on his best behavior now that his father is king, but Pharazôn says, oh no, if I'm going to be king, then my son needs to be a real piece of shit. You should look into crack. In the tower, Elendil is trying to inspire the queen to action against Pharazôn so she may reclaim her throne, but she just wants to play tag and, oh, she got him. He's it. He distracts her with a story about what he saw when he touched the Palantir and then tags her back. She tags him one last time and he says this isn't usually how you play the game, and she tells him no, this is Numenormal. Down below, all of the soldiers who refused to play tag with the queen have been laid off. But Elendil, fresh off the most depressing game of tag he's ever played, is at his lowest point when Kemen calls him Captain Dipshit. He responds, saying he's no longer a captain, and everyone mocks him by yelling, "Oh Captain, my Captain," and Kemen throws a bitch fit, because he's trying so hard to be a piece of shit, but it's not working. Ozempic Face asks Valandil out on a date, but he's busy later. He has to go to the Seawater Appreciation Festival, and that gives Kemen an idea. While we see Pharazôn sneak up on the blue ball of the future, we cut to High King Gil-galad reading the 13th invitation to her imaginary wedding that Galadriel sent him. Later, as one of the High King's advisors urges him to order the invasion now, the ring shows him a live look at Springfield, Ohio. Elsewhere, Elrond is too sexy for his cloak. In the market of Khazad Dûm, Lizzo drops a bowling ball and follows it down into a dark alley cave. Finally alone, she tries to revive her singing career, but even the air and water, the elements themselves, tell her to shut the fuck up. King Doran, meanwhile, shows off his bling bling to some other dwarves and says all this can be theirs if they pay a deposit and then recruit 3 more people to sign up for his new multi-level marketing firm. The king is going over the scheme he drew up for his new business, which oddly enough is in the shape of a pyramid, when he smells a fart. The Delve Master vehemently denies it was him, which is as good as a confession in 36 states, but then they wonder if the ring may be spreading its stinky taint. Prince Doran comes to warn his father of an ancient powerful evil down in the mines, but his father's changed, saying you can't talk to the king if you ain't got no bling bling. Meanwhile, Celebrimbor's workshop has been turned into a haunted workshop in preparation for the Halloween season, using Galadriel 2.0 as a spooky ghost. Then Prince Doran arrives to try and return the rings during the 30-day return period because of the effect they've had on his father, but Celebrimbor refuses to accept the return, saying buyer beware, bitch. But Doran insists that the rings have been tainted, and he wonders aloud if perhaps Anatar is corrupting everything he touches, while upstairs what he's currently touching is Galadriel 2.0. Back in Numenor, at the Seawater Appreciation Festival, Kemen gets his chance to make everyone hate him by shutting this shit down. He calls Elendil a dog-faced landlubber. He breaks this old man's doll, but none of it's working, as Elendil still helps him in getting a fly off his face. Then Kemen ups the ante by trying to drown Valandil, but he just ends up thanking Kemen for helping him get closer to seawater. Then he helps Kemen loosen up his shoulder joint and invites him to a friendly match of fencing. Kemen can't take this rejection by acceptance anymore and stabs Valandil in the back. He thinks that's finally done it, but Elendil tells everyone it's okay, it was an accident. They were fencing. Frustrated and out of ideas, Kemen stabs the seawater, which finally gets everyone pissed off at him, and he has Elendil arrested as a cherry on top. Back in Eregion, Celebrimbor asks Annatar point blank if he altered the rings, yes or no, and he says no, and Celebrimbor doesn't even look behind his back to see if he's crossing his fingers. How can you be 3,000 years old and still be this dumb? But Annatar elaborates, saying we altered them, and convinces Celebrimbor to embrace his taint and carry on with their work. Prince Doran comes to confront his father about something, but he gets distracted by his one weakness. He returns home, and Lizzo asks if he paid the rent or if he bought more stupid jewelry, and he's like, the rent thing. And then she makes him swear to at least never get one of those stupid rings like his father. Elrond returns to the High King and tells him they must march to Eregion because Galadriel was right, and thank the Valar she's not here to hear this. She'd never shut up about it. King Gil says he can't send their army. Ever since half of his elves took higher paying jobs with Keebler, they don't have the numbers to face Sauron and Adar. Meanwhile, with the orcs just outside Eregion, Karen Sue asks to see the orcs' manager, and when manager Adar comes out, she puts a knife to his throat, before he tells her that there's an even bigger manager out there for them both to bitch to, and the episode comes to an end. Well, we've reached that point in the video where we have to decide if this episode was a great watch or a hate watch. And while this episode was certainly better than the last, it's still getting a hate watch label because it's just so utterly boring half the time. This whole season has been clunky as hell trying to juggle all the different storylines. Storylines, by the way, that are not created anywhere near equal. Give me a full episode of Annatar manipulating Celebrimbor or the ring corrupting King Doran, and this show might produce a palatable episode. But mix in something like the Harfoots and not Gandalf, and it's a whole different ballgame. It's pretty interesting how wildly the quality of this show's storytelling can swing from one storyline to the next. None of the storylines this season make it into good territory, however. And because this episode is touching a bit more on the lore than most, the glaring contradictions are more prominent too. For example, elves are not supposed to disappear when they enter the unseen world. That's a thing for mortals. And the dwarves are supposed to be more resistant to their ring's corruption. Resistant enough to pass the rings down for generations, but here King Doran completely changes in an afternoon. And the whole season is just building toward one big event in the Battle of Eregion. It's kinda hard to get excited or stay interested in 8 hours of television that only revolve around one big event, especially when the characters are shit and the lore is twisted and corrupted. Anyway, most of the problems in this one are the same issues we've seen with the rest of the season, so I won't harp on them here. What did you think about this episode? Did you think it was at least better than episode 4? Are you rooting for the orcs or for Sauron? Let us know in the comments. Also remember to like the video if you liked it, and subscribe to HateWatchers to stay up to date on the Rings of Power. Thank you for playing the world's saddest game of tag with us today, and we'll catch you on the next one.